All righty, my name's Brian Witherell. I will be your instructor next 170 something hours if you stay with me for the whole 70 hours. This class, we've been doing it for a long time. I've been teaching it since 1992. I've been teaching it every semester here since 2004. So we've got it dialed pretty well. It's a very fast pace. It's a lot of information very quickly. It's a 6-unit class. It is not easy by any measure. If you pay attention, do as I say, follow my direction, we'll get you through it. And if nothing else, even if you do not pass the academic part, I guarantee if you stay until the end, you will have the skills of an EMT without question. We do skills every night for 2 hours. And we do them again and again and again and again until you cannot possibly get it wrong. So you will get endless practice. So we're going to start it off with a little thing here, adversity, negativity, and failure. There's going to be a lot of failure in this class. You're going to fail your scenarios and your situations endless times. And you're going to continue to fail until you can't fail. That's why I keep doing it again and again and again. The biggest outcome for you guys is going to be is what you do after you fail. You have choices. You can be upset, you can be angry, and you can be negative, or you can learn from what caused you to fail and what the failure was, make adjustments, make changes, learn from it, and do better the next time you do it again, and then do it again. Any questions? Everything that you do is your choice. So anything that someone else does, says, or thinks doesn't matter. What you do, what you choose, and what you think is what will make or break you. Any questions? So a lot of times you're going to be asked, or I get asked, is the best good enough, or I give my best? If your best isn't good enough, that's okay. As long as the next time you do it, you made it better. You have to continue to improve until, again, you cannot get it wrong. Failure is part of being human. Humans fail regularly, and you should be expecting that you're going to fail. And it's okay if you fail, but it's not okay to have a pattern of failure. Does that make sense? If you fail at something, you have to learn from the failure, step up, do it again, do it right the next time. Any questions? All right. Preparation is everything, especially in this class. You have to be prepared. You have to read the book. You have to take the practice tests. You have to practice the skills on your own time. And again, you get to do it again and again and again, so you can't get it wrong. One of the things that we do is I've set up a practice test for every chapter of this book. And I've set up practiced exams that you can take that are the same format as the exams with the same questions, the exams you'll take in this class. The objective is not to have you memorize them, but to take the tests over and over again as many times as you can, so you learn how to critically think, rule out the bad answers, and choose the best answer. The way this works and the way that your certification for the National Registry works is sometimes they will give you questions where there are no right answers. Expect is for you to choose the least bad answer. They also may give you a question and give you 4 correct answers. They want you to choose the most correct answer. So you can choose a correct answer and still fail the question because you didn't choose the best correct answer. That's what this is about. So the way this class works is on your first day handout, if you look at it, schedule. It's important. Somebody always doesn't get this throughout the semester. How they don't, but we go over it the first night. So you'll see tonight it says practice quiz. It's got a table very back for your schedule all the way through. It's like you'll see tonight. Now, I'm not holding you to this tonight. I'm not going to hold it to you tomorrow night. But by Thursday night, I expect it all to be done. So like it says, practice quiz chapters due tonight. Or 1 and 2. Well, of course, you aren't even I'm not going to make you do it. So, but by Thursday night, we're up to chapter 5. So by Thursday, I expect 1 through 5 to be done with a minimum out of 9 out of 10. Correct. You get to take the practice quiz as many times as you want. There's about anywhere from 20 to 80 questions per chapter, and it's going to randomly select 10 of them. So the more times you take the tests, the more questions you see, the better you get at it. So even if you get 10 out of 10, don't stop. Keep taking, keep taking it, keep taking it. It'll retain your 10 out of 10 score. The more times you take these tests, the better you do it. You do it again and again and again, and you can't get it wrong. Any questions? If you haven't done that by Thursday, I subtract, you don't have at least 9 out of 10 on every chapter. I subtract 1 point. You're great. You need to get 750 points total to pass this class by the end of the semester. 1,000. You will lose 1 point for each chapter that's not completed, with at least a 9 out of 10. Every night we have class, but that's not that. Does that make sense? All right. So again, preparation is everything. We're here for you to succeed. The objective of this class is to make you the best EMT, or to improve your skills if you're a first responder, to make you the best that we can possibly make you. I'll walk out of here and get hit by a truck and you guys are the first people there. I want you to be able to be at the top of your game. Again, excuses are not recognized, they're not tolerated. If you failed at something, it doesn't matter what the reason was you failed. What matters is that you identify the reason and you correct it so you do not fail again. Make sense? This is how you succeed at life. If you make an excuse or blame it on something or someone else, you're going to have a pattern of failure that's never going to benefit you. Never make an excuse, never blame something or someone else when you fail. Identify the failure, make a plan of action, correct the failure, do it again. Any questions? That's me. That's my phone number. It's also on your first day handout. And the operations manager for Mount Shasta Ambulance. Do not call Mount Shasta Ambulance. Chances of them getting a message to me are slim to none. Do not take that personally. I'm all over the place all the time. The best way to get a hold of me is either to text or call me. If I don't answer immediately, don't worry, I will get back to you. Office hours. I try to be here every Monday by a little after 5. I don't always make it. But you can call me anytime. Or text me anytime. Any questions? So basically, my office hours are always open. Again, don't call Mount Shasta Ambulance. You will not get a hold of me. And I don't answer the phone there. Any questions? You can also email me at COCAT. I do not check that very often. The text or phone call is much better. All right, next, felony conviction. They make me go through this because we've had people who've gone all the way through this class and then found out they had a felony and the state of California wouldn't certify them, and then they're very angry at us. If you have a felony conviction, it doesn't preempt you from being an EMT, but it makes it much, much, much harder. You're going to have to go through a review panel. You're going to have to explain what the felony was and what you've done to change your life to make sure that that never occurs again. And they may or may not approve you to become an EMT, but you'll have to go through the board, and it's a long process. So just to make sure you know that if you have a felony conviction on your record, you can go through this whole class, and there's an outside chance you may not get certified. If you do get certified, you're going to have to go through a longer process than someone who doesn't have. Any questions? This is a college class with college students, and More times than I can count, we've had people in the middle of this class get a DUI while they're taking the class. That is also going to make it very difficult, even though it's not a felony. A DUI, the state of California does not like to certify people that have had DUIs. They also, if you are an EMT, they will probably revoke your EMT if you get arrested. There's a very good possibility. They may or may not, depending on the circumstances. Any questions? Now, if you have a DUI in your background and it's not a felony, it probably won't affect you. But it will affect you if you're trying to get insured and get a job somewhere. That probably will affect you there. But it probably won't affect your certification. Any questions? All right. That's basically a national registry even does a background check too, and then the state does another background check. It's endless redundancies. Any questions? So the national registry. So the way this class works is you take this class. When you pass this class at the end, that makes you qualified to take the national registry test. You don't take it here. You actually have to go to a private Pearson View Center. Closest ones are Klamath Falls, Medford, Reading. But they're nationwide. You can go anywhere in the nation you want to take it. And then when you pass your national registry test, which is what this class teaches you to do, then that qualifies you to apply to become an EMT in a state. So then you got to go to the state and then pay them again after you pay national registry, and then go through a background with the state, and then the state gives you an EMT. Any questions? All right. So getting your national registry is not an EMT cert. So again, course objectives is we're trying to get you the highest possible level of quality. Amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till they can't get it wrong. Our objective here is to teach you to become a professional EMT. Any questions? So again, there is no national certification. National Registry is actually a private company, nonprofit, that sets certification guidelines and testing guidelines. And then states can choose to adapt or adopt the National Registry policy. I believe all 50 states are accepting National Registry to become an EMT in their state. But you still have to apply for the state, and you still have to pay the state money to become EMT. Any questions? And depending on what state you get your EMT in, will depend on what is in your scope of practice, what skills you can do, what medications you can give, etc. It's different in every state. The National Registry encompasses all of it. So some of the stuff we're going to train you here tonight, you may not get to use in California as an EMT if you become an EMT in California. But we're training you to the National Registry certification levels, not the state of California. Any questions? Attendance. So this is a Title 22 class. Title 22 is a California state law that we have to follow. You have to take a minimum of 170 hours. You got to be in class. It doesn't give us a lot of time to miss. So you can only miss a total of 2 classes. It doesn't matter what reason. You can only miss 2 classes. So please save those for when you really need it. You get a flat tire, you have an emergency in the family, or you're actually next to deathly ill on your deathbed. That also includes, we have 4 full day classes we do. 2 weekends, it'll be in September. We do all day Saturday, all day Sunday. If you miss one of those, that counts for 2 regular classes. You can only miss a total of 10 hours. And we count them in the 4-hour and 8-hour classes. Any questions? So if you miss a 3rd class, you can't pass because you won't have enough hours to meet the state requirements. And COS doesn't give me enough more hours to give you more of a cushion or a window for that. We're already at the max. If they extended any more hours than this, it has to become 2 separate classes. All right, any questions? That also includes leaving early. If you leave early, you do not get credit for that night. We do a roll call at the beginning and a roll call at the end. With this class, it's going to be really easy to do roll call. If you leave in the middle of this class, I'm going to notice. You also have to participate. So first 2 hours a night, you got to listen to me talk, maybe watch a few videos. We got to take a break. And then the next 2 hours, we just do skills constantly. We do them again and again and again until you get those skills perfectly. Good thing about being in a class this size is you're going to get more repetitions. Last semester was 27. So you're going to get 4 times the repetitions of skills. You're going to get 4 times the amount of skill practice than the last class did. So that is one major advantage of this class in this sense. Any questions? Again, I didn't make this rule. It's the state of California. Any question of that? How many firefighters in here? I've never had an EMT class of firefighters. That's weird. That includes fires. If you go out on a fire and you miss class, you miss class. There will be other fires. I promise you. They never stop. I've been doing it for 40 years. Keep getting more fires every year. Any questions? No firefighters. Wow. That's going to kill a lot of my analogies in this class. All right, we already did that. Skill stations again. Skill stations, we do them again and again and again. You're going to fail endlessly, and you're going to keep doing it until we get it right. We don't cut your breaks. We don't say, "Oh, it's okay this time." You fail, we start over again. You fail, we start over again. You fail, we start over again. We all work on each other. So you're going to take turns being the patient. Everyone's going to be a patient at some point. Everyone's going to be a leader. Got to make sure you wear clean clothes, you're bathed, clean socks. We do take your shoes off, check for distal circulation, sensation of movement as part of patient assessment. And you got to be clean. Hygiene is paramount. Working together makes everybody more comfortable. Any questions? We generally have volunteers coming in. Mount Shasta Ambulance, Ski Patrol, the local fire departments all show up here about 8 o'clock to help teach skills. It's awesome. This class has more community support than any EMT class I've ever seen. Please be nice to them. They're coming in to help you because they know that you're going to be working with them in the future. And again, they want you to be the best you could possibly be. So you might get angry, you might get upset when you failed for the 50th time in a row. But remember, it's part of the process. Trust the process. Keep doing it. You will get there. Any questions? So one of the things with the volunteer instructors is they all come from different agencies. Things might be a little different. So you might hear something from one person or something from another person that contradicts that. If that happens, come to me. I will give you the correct answer. We're not teaching you to work for Mount Shasta Ambulance. We're not teaching you to work for Ski Patrol. We're not teaching you to work for any fire department. We're teaching you to pass the National Registry. That's our objective. However, because like I said, the volunteer instructors, when they're in here, they're going to show you and teach you based off what they do. And it might be a little different with each agency. That's okay. And you'll understand that more when you get out there. But right now, our focus is to get you to pass National Registry so you can go out there and work for whatever agency you want to work for. Okay. Again, I will always have the final answer. That's what I just talked about. Any questions? All right. So team events are fun. The first week to 2 weeks, we teach you the basic skills, how to do airways, how to set up oxygen, how to use oxygen, how to place people in immobilization devices, how to splint, how to control bleeding, how to do airways. Then once we've got all that done, then we teach you how to do full teamwork patient assessments, how to assess for life-threatening injuries and illnesses, how to treat them quickly and work as a team, get them packaged and get them to a hospital. We do them in 10-minute events. Might seem impossible at first. Matter of fact, I guarantee when you first see it, you're going to say that's impossible. It is not impossible. And by the time this class is done, if you make it through the entire class, you will also realize that it's very doable. And once you have it down, it's actually not that hard. Any questions? And that's where you have points. You have to get 1,000 team points by the end of the semester. I've never had a team not do that. All right, so you got to have a CPR card. Everybody's got a CPR card, I assume. Make sure you have your physical CPR card because you have to upload it. You need a negative TB test. You need to get this now. It needs to be in by the second exam. Yes. Yes, still good. You're also got to upload that. I built a form, an online form. What's going to happen is either the hospital, the ambulance require you to have these things to do observation time. You have to do 24 hours of observation time on an ambulance or in an ER or a combination of both with 10 patient contacts to pass this class. So we start that right about midterm or exam 3. I try to get it going as soon as possible because this is an accelerated class. But if you don't have all these things on file with the hospital, in the ambulance, they won't let you ride along or do observation. So you have to have these. So you got to have a negative TB test. So anyway, what I did was I built a form. You can do it with your cell phone. It's on your syllabus on Canvas. You just open it up, take a picture of each one of them into the form. You upload, you hit browse, take a picture. I got a training video to show you how to do it. And it will put all of them into one PDF file for you, and we'll email it to the hospital and the ambulance so they have a full copy of your file, and they'll email it to you automatically. Pretty cool. The guy who programmed it's brilliant. I highly recommend. Flu shot. Gotta have a flu shot. If you don't want to have a flu shot, I have flu shot declination form you can fill out. You can fill that out saying that you'll wear a mask while you're doing your observation time. And actually, right now, being spring semester, it may not matter because it's not flu season. Fall semester, absolutely have to do it. But for this one, you either have to have the flu shot copy or you got to have negative declaration. And I have the negative declarations if you don't want to get a flu shot. ICS 100 is a free online class. You have to take it if you haven't already. You only got to take it once in your lifetime. There's a link for FEMA. I strongly advise you to do it now. Last semester, we had people that waited and Congress got in a fight and the government shut down. They shut down the FEMA website. Then people had to pay to take this class with somebody else, with a private agency online. If you take it through FEMA, it's free. It shouldn't take you more than an hour. You also got to take ICS 200. Print it out. So you have to upload it on the form and introduction to hazmat. None of these are hard. Yes. Nope. You don't have to do them once in your life. They're good for a lifetime. Any questions? Yes.
I don't have a CPR card, so I was wondering, is that what they have me scheduled for this weekend?
Is it this weekend?
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
That's weird. Usually it's the Saturday before class. That'll work.
Yeah, because I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah. So as soon as they're going to email you your card after Saturday, and then you just upload that card. You'll print it and you can just upload it, or you can take a picture of it on the screen. That'll work for me. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, usually it's the Saturday before. It must be a scheduling snafu. So once you get that all uploaded, then you'll be qualified to be on the list. It'll get approved. Fairchild will let me know. And then you got to do a total of 24 hours of observation time, 10 contacts. Do not wait till the last week to do that. Start scheduling as soon as you're approved to schedule. Once I give you guys the green light to go, start scheduling your time on the ambulance and at the ER. If you go to the ER at Fairchild and Wairika, you will get 10 contacts in one shift easily. They're on 30, 40, 50 patients a day, every day, 7 days a week. No lack of patients. Mount Shasta ambulance, it's a little tougher. You got to do quite a few ride-alongs. You may get days you get nothing, and you may get days you might get 4 or 5 in one day. Any questions? So I only have contracts right now with Fairchild Medical Center and Mount Shasta ambulance and Aetna ambulance. And I think maybe McLeod ambulance. Yeah, I have McLeod ambulance. And the reasons why I only have contracts, those are trying to keep the cost of this class down for you guys. The rest of the ambulances and hospitals are all corporate, and they do not view EMT students as being different than nursing students. So they want the same requirements. That's about $500 to $800 more cost to you for the class. You have to get full vaccinations, double TB tests, and a personal insurance, liability insurance policy that you have to carry in case you accidentally kill someone while you're observing. But you're not nursing students, you're not doing medications, you're not doing IVs, you're not doing procedures. You're just observing in the ER. So although I think that's crazy that corporate does that, and I also think it's lazy administration, being recorded, and I just said that, I did not say that. I think they could do a better job administering that as administrators in their corporations, but I have been unsuccessful to get them to change their mind that there's a difference between a paramedic student or an EMT student and a nursing student. I will continue to try, but that's right now, those are the only places that don't require all those extra things. They only require these. Any questions? All right. So you got to have all those put in and attached. Oh, and you also got to fill out and sign a HIPAA form. HIPAA is a privacy declaration. All you have to do is read the sheet, sign that you understand it, print your name and sign it. And you have to upload that with it too. After midterm, if all of you have got it turned in, I can have a list to the ambulance and to the hospital. You guys can start scheduling on what times you're available to go schedule and do observations. It's really cool. You'll enjoy it. Never had someone say they didn't enjoy it. While you're there, you have to be part of the team and part of the crew. If you're hanging out looking at your cell phone, believe me, every nurse, every EMT, and every paramedic in this county has my cell phone number. They will call me. They will let me know. And those hours will not be counted. You will have to start over. Any questions? All right, so here's the video. So again, this is on your syllabus, on your Canvas, but this is how it works.
You can click on any.
Any questions? All right. So it takes 4 categories to pass this class. You got to pass all 4 categories. Category A is attendance and observation. You got to be here for the full 170 hours, and you got to be actually participating. Category B is skills and team events. You got to pass all your skills exams, which you will. No one's ever failed that. As long as you stay to the end, we do it again. You'll do it so many times. You'll be able to roll out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, not knowing who or what you are, and you'll still be able to do the skill. That well programmed into you. And you got to get 1,000 team points. Work as a team. Category C is affective and effective behavior. You have to act professionally and you have to be respectful, presentable in class and while you're doing your observation time. If not, you will lose your team points. You'll have to start over again. Again, we've had to give warnings in the past, but we've never actually had someone that just couldn't learn how to be professional. And then the last category, the first three categories, A, B, and C, those are all pass fail. You either do them or you don't. Then category D is your exams. You have to get 75% average by the end of the semester, 750 total points. That's what gives you your grade. And you have to get a 75% on the final minimum to pass this class. So again, category A, it's either pass or fail. Meet the minimum 170 hours. You do your 24 hours observation with your 10 patient contacts. And you got to complete 1 day of auto extrication, whether you've taken it before or not. Of course, we do that. It's one of the all-day classes we do. And B is your skills, which we do for 2 hours every night, religiously. C is your effective, being professional, it's being polite, it's being courteous, and having a positive attitude. Any questions? You got to respect, have a good attitude, be accountable for your actions, not blame others, not blame your teammates, and have integrity. You have to be honest at all times. You have to be factual, and you always have to be doing the right things for the right reasons. And of course, your appearance. All right, there it is, category D. So we have 6 exams we do throughout the semester. There were 50 points each, so are only 5% of your grade. It is not uncommon to fail the first 2 exams of this class. Okay? No big deal. The ones you have to pass are the midterm and the final. Combined, they are 70% of the class of the grade. Those are your big ones. There are no retakes. There are no remakes. Hey, me. And you got to get a 75% average total. Now, you lose 1 point out of this class for every one of the practice tests that are due that you don't have a 9 out of 10 out of by the time we start class. Generally, people that have a 10 out of 10 on every chapter I let go home early. We're wrapping class up. The ones that don't, stay here and answer test questions for me. Until we get enough test questions right, then you get to go home. Any questions so far? There are no makeup tests. Makeup tests are the midterm and the final. Say the regular 6 exams, they're important, but they're not critically important if you don't pass them. You got to have a 75% average by the end of the semester, and you got to get at least a 75% of the final. If you can't get a 75% of the final of this class, you won't pass national registry. So there's no point in continuing. So grading, A is 900 points and above. We actually occasionally get those. Very few, but sometimes we do get them. B is from 800 to 900 points. The C is 750 to 800. There is no D because D is considered a passing grade. Anything below 75 is not passing. So you're not going to pass. Any questions? All right. Make sure we clean everything up the other night. Leave the classroom the way we found it. Share this classroom with lots of other people. We want to make sure that we do our part. Any refresher students? All right, we're going to skip over that. So, how to become an EMT? You got to pass this class. Take the national registry as soon as possible. People that wait over 2 weeks take the national registry after they pass the final generally do not pass the national registry. If you take it within a week of taking this final, your success rate is over 95%. This class also has a 20% higher success rate than the national average for passing national registry. They're at 92%. The national average, I believe, is 71%. So we do pretty well. So you take that, pass it. Once you pass that, then you go to the state, wherever you want, whichever state you want to work out of. Go apply for their EMT, show them your national registry, you pay them, and then you become EMT. Any questions? Also, you got to give them your course completion card, your National Register certificate, your CPR card, your driver's license. You got to do a live scan and pay. Any questions? Best way to learn this, I mean, we do a lot of skills. Like I said, we do 2 hours a night, but the best way to learn and pass this class is to join a volunteer fire department. Every volunteer fire department is hiring. You get to run medical calls. You don't have to be an EMT. They'll take you. They just need extra hands. And you will learn real patient assessments on real patients. And then what I'm telling you makes a lot more sense when you've actually been out in the field and actually seen it. It makes this class way easier. And the more calls you go on and the more calls you see in real life, the better you'll be at this. Any questions? All right, you can all go home. No, just kidding. We're here till 10:30. All right. Okay, 2 more presentations, then we're going to take a break. Then we're going to come back and do skills. All right, EMS systems. First few chapters aren't very fun. I'm not going to fool you guys. You know what? How many are standing? So, but once we start getting into patient assessment and stuff like that, this class, I think it's really cool. I keep coming back twice a year. I like it that much. So thoughts for the day. I'll always start one off thought for the day for you guys. It's okay to not like everyone or every agency you work with. In fact, it's impossible to. Human, you have a question?
Change the edition.
Change the what?
The book edition.
Yeah. I didn't have a choice. It has to meet National Registry. The only difference is they took out pediatric and geriatric out, so 39 chapters instead of 41, and they just added them to each chapter. So if you have the 12th edition and you've already taken the class, you'll go. But there's going to be pediatric and geriatric questions in all of the quizzes all the way through instead of at the end of the semester. Yeah. Believe me, I had to rework. I'm only halfway through the presentations reworking them and I had to rework all the tests. Yeah. It was a blast, trust me. So it's pretty much the same, but just a little bit different enough to sell you new books. And I had to change it because it has to meet National Registry standards for the testing so that you guys can pass the test, which is the objective. So anyway, back to thought for the day. It's impossible to like everyone. No matter where you go, you're not going to like everyone and not everyone's going to like you. That's okay. Because at the same time, not everyone's going to hate you and you're not going to hate everyone. At least I hope. You're going to have dislikes. You're going to have differences of opinion. And that's okay. And it's okay to have that on your team. But it's not okay to let it affect patient care, the objective of what you're there for. Always remember, this is not about you. This is about your patient and your patient's family. So it doesn't matter how much you hate someone else on your team or how much you think they suck or how much you don't think that they have a high enough level of training. It doesn't matter. What matters is your patient and their family. So it's not about you. If there's a problem, you address the problem after the call. You get back in quarters and you work to make sure that you do it better next time. That makes sense? So again, it's okay to not like people. It's okay for them to not like you. It's okay to have a difference in opinion. It's not okay for it to affect your patient care, your assessment, and your objective. All right, put my soapbox away. So, objectives for this chapter. We're going to define what emergency medical services is, know your EMS history, how we got here, understand what the 4 levels of the EMS certification are, what their roles are, understand the components of an EMS system, what medical direction is, how it works, and what are your roles and responsibilities as an EMT. So, for example, the overall goal and objective of the EMT is to be able to size up a scene, make sure it's safe so you don't get yourself or any of your team members or your patient killed. Do a patient assessment, look at the positive findings of your patient assessment, form a general impression of what's probably wrong with the patient, and choose the appropriate treatment protocol to treat that patient. Package them and get them en route to the closest appropriate hospital. Get everything cleaned up, put back together, do your paperwork, and prepare for the next dispatch. It's a lot, but once you get it down, you get the routine down, you have the muscle motor down, it is one of the best and easiest jobs on the planet, as you will run on autopilot. Any questions? At least if I do my job right. Questions so far? EMS history, this is my first ambulance I worked on. You don't believe me? So it started in World War I was the first time they used motorized ambulances to get people to hospitals. No real training, not even basic first aid. But World War II, they started having corpsmen started learning first aid to help out the doctors, the nurses. But it wasn't until Korea when they actually figured out the golden hour, which found out that no one dies from major traumatic injuries. If you get shot or hit by a truck or fall off a cliff, if you live past the first 5 minutes, your body's in shock, and that shock generally buys you an hour. Almost nobody dies between 5 minutes and 1 hour of an injury. It either kills you in the first 5 minutes, you bleed out all over the place, or if you don't, then you usually get about an hour. And after an hour, then you're going to run out of your shock compensatory, and then you'll die. So if you can they figure out Korea was, man, if we can get these guys into surgery, stop the bleeding, and correct the problem within an hour, they have over a 90% success rate of survival. Pretty impressive. That's where EMS was actually born. So here at home and then in Vietnam, they really got it down to they were doing really good. But then what they found out was people in Vietnam were having a higher survivability rate being shot or blown up in Vietnam than they were from car accidents in the United States. Because the trauma systems the military have, we didn't have in the domestic civil sector. So that's when advanced life support, the more modern EMS system started. Before 1966 to 1970, most ambulances were run by funeral homes. That's why they were station wagons that looked like hearses, because that's what they were. It was hearses. They put a red light on and paint a different color. And you weren't expected to live, but the cool thing was, if you didn't live, then the ambulance service was also the mortician, and they already had a relationship with the family, so it was much easier to get you to use them. That's what it was. So now we actually try to save people, and that's where EMTs and paramedics came from. Any questions? So EMS is a multi-level team approach. There's multiple agencies, multiple levels of training, all come together for one to get the patient treated, try to get them back to what they were before the illness or the injury. And that is actually the definition of definitive care, which you will need to know for tests. Definitive care is getting them back to what they were prior to the incident that required your services. EMT Basic, which is this class, is the heart and backbone of every EMS system. No system works without EMTs. And what sets up the scope of practice for EMTs to work, the basic framework is on the federal level, but it's the states that actually set up each of their own EMS systems. Every state runs under the basic framework. This will be on the test. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Department of Transportation. You have to know what those acronyms mean. There will be test questions. Any questions on the test questions on that? All right, 4 levels of certification. First level is emergency medical responder. Next one above that's emergency medical technician, then the advanced EMT, and the paramedic. We're gonna go over each one of these. All right, EMR is 40 to 60 hours of training. Basic life support does not include advanced airways, but they do use an automatic external defibrillator. Any questions on what an EMR is? A lot of cops, firefighters, park rangers, coaches. Then you got the emergency, well, it's still the same people. They're usually arrive on scene before the ambulances because they're usually right there. And they can preside, they can stop the bleeding, they can do CPR, they can keep you alive till the ambulance gets there. Any questions? EMT basic, 160 hours of training minimum. California, it's 170. Includes airway, oxygen, bleeding control, splinting, some basic medications, more advanced airways, and it qualifies you to work on an ambulance, also known as a life support unit. And depending on the state or the section of the state that you're in, you may even have a more expanded scope with more medications. Just depends on the state. Any questions? So, what do EMTs do? They assess the patients, they provide stabilization measures, get additional resources they need them, provide emergency care, package the patient, transport, and that's for an ambulance. They can also work in healthcare, they can work in clinics, they can work in hospitals, sometimes even in nursing homes. Any questions? All right, the EMT advanced, that's generally in small rural areas like this. They can't afford paramedics. They're usually volunteers. They have 300 or more hours training. They have limited advanced life support skills and medications. Generally don't carry a cardiac monitor or severe advanced cardiac medications, but it works really well for rural areas. Don't see them very often. Any questions on what an EMT advanced is? All right, and that brings us to paramedics. They can start IVs though. They can do some airways. Paramedics is 1,300 to 2,100 hours. Gives them the full advanced life support scope of practice. They're the highest trained provider in the field. And again, their scope of practice also varies from state to state. Any questions? All right. So their focus is on a whole bunch of different levels. Some can go all the way to bachelor's. They're actually working on that right here at CLS. You can go all the way to bachelor's in your paramedic, hopefully by next year. They can do invasive airways, emergency pharmacology, which is medications. They can do cardiac monitors, and they can do all kinds of advanced life support stuff. And you as EMTs can also help them set up for all those things too. Any questions? So this is how it usually works. EMR is the first one on scene. They begin care. EMTs show up, continue care. Advanced life support shows up, does advanced life support things. They'll help get the patient to the appropriate hospital, get them back to what they were prior to the incident. Questions? So becoming an EMT, you got to do the education and training. That's what we're doing here. We're going to teach you how to take the National Registry test and meet the basic requirements for National Registry. Critically important. Prepare and complete all of your assignments. Any questions? I know it's a lot. And it seems overwhelming at first, but once we get going, really not that bad. That's a cute little thing that I put in. That's new this semester. Any questions? All right. So again, after successfully completing this course, you're going to go take your National Registry test. They're going to give you an ID. Then you're going to take that to your state. You're going to apply for your state. And after you get your state EMT, then you can go get a job as an EMT. Any questions? All right. So what are the professional attributes of being an EMT? You have to have integrity. You don't have integrity, no doctor, nurse, or other EMT or paramedic's going to believe in anything you say if you steer them wrong. You have to be consistent. You have to have integrity. You have to have empathy. If you're not here for the patient, you shouldn't be here. It's not going to work. You have to be self-motivated. No one's going to do this for you. You have to be self-motivated and self-accountable. People in an emergency situation do judge a book by its cover. You have to have good appearance and hygiene. You have to have self-confidence. You will have self-confidence if you stay in this class till the end. You'll be very confident you can do this job. Time management, which we're also going to teach you. We're going to teach you how to get all this done in under 10 minutes, regardless. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to work in a team. You got to be able to work diplomatically in a team. Because again, you're not going to like everyone and you're not going to hate everyone. And everyone's going to like you and not everyone's going to hate you. But you have to work as a team. And the priority has to be the patient and their family. You have to have respect for everyone. You have to be an advocate for your patient. You have to provide good quality care. Any questions? So what are the job responsibilities of an EMT? Got to keep the vehicle and the equipment ready for an emergency anytime. EVOC means emergency vehicle operations course. You have to be able to drive and operate the vehicle to get to the patient safely. You got to be a leader on scene. You got to be able to size the scene up, see what other resources you need or what you're going to need and order them. You got to be able to get to the patient. It could be up on the 30th floor of a building or up a rickety staircase or crushed inside of a car or falling down an embankment. You got to be able to get to them. You got to do a good patient assessment. Based off your patient assessment, you got to be able to give good treatments. Extricate, get them to an ambulance, get them packaged. Work as an interrupted team. Have continuity of care with all providers all the way up to the hospital. You're going to run into roadblocks and problems as you're doing this. There's so many different things that go sideways and go wrong in emergency scenes. You have to be able to identify those things and resolve them on scene for the best interest of your patient. You got to uphold all the medical and legal standards. Make sure there's privacy. You can't go down the Bradford and say, hey, Joe Smith, you're not going to believe what happened to him. You can't do that. You got to have complete privacy for your patient. You got to have administrative support to continue paperwork, and you got to continue to get better. Any questions? So, components of an EMS system. None of this works if you don't have a system in place. One of the guys I trained as a paramedic, he and his family were going to open up an ambulance in Vietnam. They went there, they had the money, they're going to set it all up. But the first thing they discovered was there's no EMS system in Vietnam. There's no emergency rooms. There's no emergency doctors. There's nowhere for an ambulance to take it. If you don't have an EMS system, it doesn't matter. So how do you have an EMS system? You got public access like 911. You got to be able to call you. You got to have clinical care. You got to have people trained on how to do it. You got to have medical direction. It's who sets up what that care is, how they do it, how they make sure it's legally and done right. You got to have integration of healthcare services between first responders, EMTs, paramedics, nurses, doctors, physical therapists, getting people back to what they were before. You got to have a reporting system and an information system. You need to do prevention so that you're not having the same problems over and over again. You got to research to see what's working and what's not. You got to have communication systems. You got to have radios, cell phones, pagers. So you're able to communicate and get crews there as quickly as possible. You have to have human resources. Someone's got to take care of the EMTs. That's what human resources does. Make sure you get paid. Make sure you have right insurance. Make sure you get exposed or contaminated that you get your health care taken care of. Legislation and regulation to make sure everyone's on the same page and doing the same job to the highest quality possible. And in so doing, so evaluating. You got to have system finance. None of this works without money. Somebody's got to pay for the gas to go in the vehicle. Someone's got to pay for the fire engines and the ambulances. Someone's got to insure them. Someone's got to buy the equipment. It all requires finance. Public education. The more the educated the public is, the fewer problems you have. And of course, education systems, which is what this is, making sure that we can train people to, as other people go out, we have fresh people coming in. Any questions? All right. So public access has to be easy. 911 is amazing. When I first started in this, City of Wheat didn't have 911. We used to hand out stickers. Fire department, ambulance, and law enforcement all had separate phone numbers. And there were 7-digit phone numbers. Doesn't remember, actually, I had 911 my whole life. We didn't have it until 1986 when 911 finally went. 911 is amazing. Communication systems, radio, cell phones, digital radio now. It can actually send messages straight to your cell phone. They can give you the addresses, GPS locations, everything. Doesn't cellular interface is obsolete. Don't even pay attention to that. Clinical care, scope of practice is what the EMT is allowed to do. For instance, scope of practice for an EMT is oxygen, airways, AEDs, splinting, controlling bleeding, packaging. Scope of practice for the paramedics is IVs, medications, cardiac monitors, things like that. Any questions? Equipment and response zones. You got to have response zones so you can get the closest resource there in the fastest amount of time. Any questions? Human resources. That's how they handle and keep personnel. Medical direction. Okay, offline and online. That's going to be on the tests. So offline is standing orders. So what standing orders is that you don't got to call the doctor. If you've done a patient assessment and you have formed a primary impression, you choose a protocol, say chest pain. They're going to tell you the standing orders from the doctor is going to be put them on oxygen and give them aspirin if they're not allergic. You don't got to call it. It's just a standing order. It's already pre-written. Now, if you need to assist a patient with their medication, like say they have nitroglycerin, you don't have a standing order to assist them with it. You have to call the doctor and your base hospital and say, hey, can I do this? And the doctor gives you approval. That's an online or base hospital consultation. Got to make sure you understand the difference between offline and online medical orders are. Any questions? All right. So legislation and regulation, every system has to have a medical director. That medical director helps create the scope of practice of what you can and can't do, creates the protocols for your standing orders, and then the scope of practice is what you got to call in. Any questions? So evaluation, we're constantly looking at things. Everything changes. Probably nothing that you're learning today, 10 years from now will apply. We're going to continue to evaluate. We're going to continue to get better. We're going to continue to change things. I'll give you an example. Tomorrow night, we're going to teach you guys how to do spinal immobilization and skills. 10 years ago, any patient that was in any type of traumatic injury or hit their head got full spinal immobilization because that's what the scope of practice and the criteria was they thought was the best practice, was completely immobilize their spine on a backboard so you could x-ray it and make sure the spine wasn't broken. What they found out was that through research and evaluation, that was a terrible thing to do to the patients. There was no benefit to it. So now we have very strict guidelines of when we actually do that and how we actually completely change. And that's what happens. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn, and that's how if you make a mistake, there's a good chance someone else is going to make that same mistake. So once we identify it, we teach everyone not to do that. However, if you have a secret society of incompetence, which is when you make a mistake and your friend says, hey, I got you, we'll cover it up, and we don't tell anyone and we just make sure it doesn't happen and we fraudulently document that it didn't happen, then you continue to make those mistakes and so does everyone else. And you all become incompetent. The best way to become good is to identify your mistakes, own them. Any questions? All right. Integration of health services. EMS is a large machine. We're one gear inside that machine. All the gears have to be working in synchronization and in perfect order for the patient to survive. Right? If one gear goes wrong, things end badly for your patient. So make sure you're never that gear. And that's what we're going to teach you here, is to be able to do this again and again and again until you can't possibly be the gear that malfunctions. Any questions? And actually, when Right about halfway through, I'm going to give you guys a case study that actually happened. It shows truly things that you would never believe could happen. But it can if all the gears are working in perfect mesh. That day they were. The question of integration. You got to have 911. You got to have dispatchers that are trained in how to get resources. You have to have resources in strategic spots. You have to have hospitals in strategic spots. You got to have resources that are trained on how to do the assessments and then know what to do with the assessments, choose the correct protocols and standing orders. You got to get them to the emergency rooms so that they can also be effective. And the specialty centers that can do things above and beyond the emergency centers like neurosurgery, cardiac surgery, things like that. Any questions? Information systems, again, documentation. You got to be able to write down. You can tell someone what you did, but a nurse in a busy hospital or a doctor in a busy ER is not going to remember what you told them 15 minutes and 20 patients from now. That's why documentation is critically important for everything. You got to be able to write good reports, and we're going to teach you how to do that. Any questions? You're a quiet group. Again, finance without money doesn't work. Education systems, you got to be, you're also, just because you become an EMT, it's not the end of the road, it's the beginning. You have to do 24 hours, at least in California, you got to do 24 hours continuing education every 2 years to stay certified. And if you don't, you will not be certified anymore. So this is just the beginning. After you get done this class, you're still going to be doing continuing education. And it's your responsibility to get it done. Any questions? Yeah.
Is it all the same for like if you're going into paramedic or firefighting?
Paramedic has to have they have to have 48 hours in 2 years. That's insane. No, it's not insane. It's not that bad. It's only what, 2 hours a month for 2 years?
So I would still have to take like the tests after the class that you were talking about.
Not so much tests, but you got to take the classes. There's all kinds of different continuing education. There's classes you can take. You can run reviews in hospitals. You can take some online. There's a bunch of different online ones that you can do. You can go to weekend conferences. We do a conference over the weekend that gives like 16 hours for 2 full 8-hour days. There's lots of ways to get continuing education. So, but you got to recertify every 2 years for the state. You're going to have to show them that you did at least 24 hours as an EMT and 48 hours as a paramedic. Or another thing you can do is you can come in here and you can take an EMT refresher class, which some people do. This semester, there's not any. Sometimes every once in a while we'll have a refresher class. They've just got to come to, I think the refresher for this one, though, is 8 classes. It's actually 32 hours college makes you do. But you come out of it, and once you pass this class, you just take it to the state and say, I took a full EMT refresher class. That counts as all your C's. Any questions? Prevention and public education. What is prevention? CPR classes, car seat inspections, bike rodeos where they teach kids about bike safety, things like that. And of course, legislation like seatbelt laws, helmet laws, things like that. Is prevention and education. Any questions? All right, EMS research. We look at the reports, we look at what's working, what's not working, why it's not working, or what could be better. Then they make improved plans and improve protocols, and then they change and improve the scope of practice. Said this region, it's about every 6 months they meet once a month. And every 6 months they meet. And they go over that, and about twice a year they change the protocols here. So it's constantly progressing. Any questions? All right, so here's an example. Kind of slip and slide. You get the point. So a guy gets a head injury from a slip and slide. Bystanders call 911. 911 dispatcher notes where they're at and the location of the call. One dispatcher takes that information down, the other one gives life-saving instructions to the person on the phone. Pre-arrival instructions, they call that. First responders respond, police, fire, and an ambulance. Depending on what area it is, might be a basic life support, might be advanced life support, depending on what area it is. They arrive on scene, they assess the patient, they package them, and they transport them. They get into the hospital, get the proper treatment, get them back to what they were before they jumped on the slide. That's how the system works. Any questions? All right, review your study guide. All right, any questions? All right, next slideshow, then we're going to take a break. All right, thoughts for the day. This is a job that runs high on emotion, high on stress. It's always critically important to remember the following. One, you did not put the people in the position they're in. Their choices and factors in their life put them there. You are there to help that person in the position they are in. It is your job, and despite what their actions were, it's your job to help them and get them out of that position and get them back to what they were before. It's not about you, it's about them. Your life is going to be good or bad based on the choices that you make for any given situation or environment. If you continue to make the same choices, you're going to continue to get the same results. And if the results you don't like and you continue to make the same choices, you're going to get the same results you don't like. Any questions? Moving on. We're going to learn about infectious diseases. We're going to learn about communicable diseases. We're going to learn about universal precautions. We're going to go over the different types of universal precautions so you don't get communicable or infectious diseases. We're going to learn how you get diseases get transmitted into your body so you can prevent it. Because the more you know, the better your chance you can protect yourself. We're going to go over how immunity works and what an infection exposure control plan is. We're going to go over the psychological, physical stresses of the body and how you respond to them. We're going to go over what post-traumatic stress disorder is. We're going to go over this prevention and management of stress. We're going to go over some workplace issues, including sexual harassment, cultural diversity, and substance abuse, which is a huge problem in emergency services. We're going to go over the emotional aspects of emergency care. We're going to go over how to deal with death and dying and the grieving process. And we're going to go over what stress does on large casualty incidents, how to mitigate that. We're going to go over scene safety issues. It's a lot. We only got 45 minutes. Let's get it done. All right, infectious disease. The little tiny bugs that you can't see get inside your body and make you sick. Communicable diseases when we spread it from one person to another person. It spreads. So check this out. All bloodborne diseases are communicable, but not all communicable diseases are bloodborne. Any questions? All right. So routes of transmission, direct contact. I go, how you doing? Or I spit on you and you swallow my spit. That's direct contact. Indirect contact is when you go, hand money or touch a door handle or a table, and then you touch the same thing that I touched after I sneezed. That's indirect contact. That's how you get sick. That's probably the most, that is the most contact route of transmission. Airborne, if it's an airborne virus or an airborne bacteria, which is pretty rare outside of tuberculosis. That's like you sneeze or cough, and then you inhale the droplets into your lungs or into your mucous membranes. That's airborne. Foodborne is when you eat food that's contaminated, bacteria in it. And then vector-borne is from a bite or a sting, like rabies. questions about the routes of transmission? How to get sick? How do you prevent these routes of transmission? Well, you use OSHA guidelines. Gloves stops indirect contact. Washing your hands constantly. Every time you take gloves off, you immediately wash your hands. Every time before you touch something or someone else, or before you eat or drink anything, you wash your hands. Goggles, masks, gowns, and respirators are also important. Not necessarily need to be used on every patient, but if it's a patient that you know has a communicable disease, you should probably be wearing all of them. Any questions? If you're a firefighter, turnouts are the best protection against direct contact. The immunizations. So what is the immune system? So your immune system's working every day around the clock. We're going to go doing a whole chapter on it after midterm. But to give you the clip notes of it, your immune system, the world is a filthy, dirty place. It's got bacteria and viruses everywhere. And you're constantly being exposed. So your immune system fights and kills bacteria and virus. And it's working 24 hours a day inside your body. You don't even know it. It's running on autopilot. So what happens is sometimes, once in a while, a bacteria or a virus overpowers your immune system. Your immune system doesn't exactly know how to kill it yet. So you get sick until it learns how to kill it. What an immunization is they take a virus, they kill the virus, so it's a dead virus, then they inject it into you. So your immune system's been exposed to it, and it knows how to kill it. It learns how to kill it. That's what immunization does. Make sense? Then when you're actually exposed to the live virus version of it, your immune system already goes, oh, I know that dude. I can kill him. And it kills it. That's how an immunization works. That's why they're important. So no matter what agency you work for as an EMT, all 50 states require EMS agencies to have an exposure management plan. You are a human. The chances of you making a mistake are excellent. And if you get exposed, you need to have a plan. Your agency needs to have a plan of what to do if you do get exposed to a communicable disease. It is your responsibility to be educated on what your agency's exposure management plan is and to activate it if you have an exposure. Any questions? Do an assessment, someone vomits projectile blood into your eyes and your mouth, you're going to have to activate an exposure protection plan. Any questions? So health is complex. There's a lot of different factors to it, including physical and mental and emotional. There's chronic diseases, there's acute diseases, there's stress that gets involved in it. Having a good attitude, a good work environment, and a good healthy practices and good hygiene practices is paramount to successfully avoiding getting yourself sick. Any questions? Nutrition is huge. Nutrition is also very difficult in the EMS structure. You're constantly working and constantly in different places. It's hard to keep good nutrition, but it's paramount that you're able to do that. It's also paramount to stay hydrated at all times. Any questions? Exercise and relaxation are critically important. I recommend you get at least 150 minutes of exercise in every week. Any questions? Sleep. So you should get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep a night. In emergency services, you're going to find that difficult. But if at all possible, try to, because fatigue is also a huge factor. Any questions? All right. There are some recommendations to improve your sleep quality. I don't have to worry about this because the second I close my eyes, I fall asleep, and I fall asleep even when I don't want to fall asleep. So I never had this problem. Any questions? Napping is a great tool. Caffeine is important while you're working to strive off fatigue. If you're having fatigue, you may not be able to handle a 24-hour shift schedule, but always have caffeine accessible. And it's important to nap. Any questions? It's important to get adequate quality sleep before your shift. And it's okay to take 20 to 30-minute naps during your shift. However, take it longer than that, you might get into too deep of a sleep, then that makes you even more fatigued. So make sure you don't do that. And again, physical exercise is critically important. Any questions? Mental exercise is also critically important. Conversation, games, whatever it takes, as long as it's working your brain. This is a high stress job, and it will cause you to have stress. Most people don't understand what stress is. What stress is fight or flight. So it goes all the way back to the times of the caveman, walking through the jungle, looking for a girl to club. Saber-toothed tiger jumps out. Caveman's got two choices. He can run for his life, or he can fight for his life. It doesn't matter which one he chooses. He's going to need the same tools. He's going to need his eyes to dilate. He's going to need his blood pressure to go up. He's going to need his heart rate to go up. He's going to need his airways to dilate to get as much oxygen and all he can and carbon dioxide out. He's going to have to dump his glucose stores so he can get as much energy to his muscles as he can so he can fight for his life or run for his life. That's what fight or flight is. That's also what stress is. So what happens is stress is, or overloaded stress, when it becomes a problem, is when you're constantly in a fight or flight state and you never get to the recovery state. The caveman, once he got done fighting or running from the tiger, saber-toothed tiger, then he had a rest and a recovery stage and everything went back to normal. If you're constantly in the fight or flight all day long, every day, then you're going to have the negative reactions of stress. So one way you combat that is with critical incident stress debriefing, which is CISD. That's what we do after a major incident. So how do you know when someone's under stress? See things like this. There you go. How do you know if you're having workplace stress? First of all, you got to know the causes. Dangerous situation, extreme physical and emotional demands, critical patients that are about to die, or they are dying, overpowering sights and smells. And believe me, you're going to get some overpowering sights and smells. Multiple casualty incidents where you have more people injured than you have resources for. Angry people are everywhere. You can't let the angry people get. Anyway, we're gonna teach you about that. Unpredictability of the job, which I think is the best part of the job, and of course, non-critical, not patients calling 911 for things that are not emergencies. So, what are the signs and symptoms that you're under stress? Well, you're having a constant fight or flight. Your respirations are up, your heart rate's up, blood pressure's always up, your skin's cold and clammy because it's shuttling the blood into the more important organs and muscles. Your pupils are always dilated, your muscles are tensed, your blood glucose is up, and decreased blood flow to your stomach. It's diverting blood to your muscles. Those are the signs and symptoms of stress. Any questions? How do you manage stress? Not the way this guy does. Don't do that. So getting along in a team environment, you're not going to get along with everybody on your team. You're going to come from different cultures, different experiences, and different backgrounds. Again, it's not about you. It's about your patient. So the workplace, especially when we're working a lot of hours together, there's a lot of kidding and teasing that can go in place that can help with workplace stress. So make sure you don't take it too far and make it cause workplace stress. Always be supportive of everyone on your team, whether you like them or not. Any questions? Critically important. So general adaptation syndrome, that's what we're talking about. Alarm state, you got to fight that tiger when he jumps out of the bushes. Reaction and resistance. And then when it's all done, you're just like, man, that was a brutally ugly saber-tooth tiger. And then you recover. Any questions? So other stress responses that are not the typical ones, there's delayed stress reactions. This is also common in EMS. This is when you have a horrific thing, but you're so well programmed. Tom and I taught you so well. That's Tom that just walked in. You're going to get to know Tom real well. But you're so well programmed that you do everything you can to save this person's life. And it's not until you're on your way back to quarters like, oh my God, what did I just happen? What did I just see? That's a delayed stress reaction. Cumulative stress is the most common stress in emergency services. That's when it's not a major incident. It's not, the little girl that got run over by a garbage truck or the plane crash that killed 50 people or 100 people. It's the constant ongoing annoyances and problems all day long and frustrations that cause you to have that little bit of fight or flight, but it never goes away. It's just constant. That's what's called a cumulative stress reaction. Then you got PTSD. That's the one where you had a big incident that affected you psychologically and you didn't get the proper debriefing or counseling afterwards. And it affects you the rest of your career. For example, there's a guy, a paramedic at San Francisco Fire, who I'm not going to name because it would be a HIPAA violation. But for example, so there was a girl in, this is in the 80s, and a girl that had come from Vietnam. She'd escaped the killing fields of Cambodia. Actually, I think it was Cambodia. She escaped the killing fields and had made it and was going to UCSF. And she was walking down the street and a piece of concrete fell off the 25th floor off of a gargoyle that had been there for probably 100 years. Hit her in the back of the head, broke her first cervical vertebrae, freaking killed her. And a guy was on, the medic that was on that, the rest of his career, because he never got the proper debriefing, kept looking up. Every time he's on a call, because that's the kind of thing that stays with you. That's a post-traumatic stress disorder. Or I know another guy who was an officer who was shot in the line of duty. Same thing, did not get the proper debriefing. And every time a car would backfire, he'd grab his gun and call for backup. Just be a car backfire. Those are the kind of things that can affect you and ruin your career. Any questions? More wrong ways to handle workplace stress. This looks like a good idea. Having scooter races. You might want to make sure you do it in an approved, appropriate area. How do we manage it? Always remain professional, good diet, regular exercise, relaxation, sleep, and balancing work between work, family, and health. Your family is not in emergency services, is not going to understand the daily stressors that you go through. Any questions? This is a good way to deal with stress. I personally fully approve. This guy's doing an autopsy. He's going to chill the vertebrae arteries. And he's practicing. That's what they do in medical school. You do it 100 times on cadavers before you do it on a live person. So Nerve stimulator. Good exercise is always important. What you do after something happens. Fortunately, mom had better critical thinking skills. All right, workplace issues. Culture diversity is always going to be an issue. People have different backgrounds, different experiences. It can cause issues. Not being able to work in a team environment is going to be an issue. Sexual harassment is never okay or tolerable. And substance abuse is never the answer to workplace stress. Any questions? Any questions? Excellent example. Yeah.
All right, so again, stress management. One thing is a bucket, where the bucket collects water until it overflows, and then people lose their mind. So make sure your bucket doesn't overflow. Make sure the water is regularly emptied. How do you do that? So you got the little faucets there. It's kind of cute. Exercise, talking with friends about it, therapist, relaxation techniques, and trying to get the adequate amount of sleep. Any questions? Kind of a cool analogy. Make sure you wear your BSI, have your immunizations, do proper hygiene. Try to avoid smoking, vaping, anything to do with nicotine. It causes massive vasoconstriction and increases stress and long-term effects. Any questions? Alcohol use. Wow, that's sexist. 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men. Very sexist. Excessive alcohol use is never recommended. Any questions? Same with cannabis use. Depending on your state or agency, it may be illegal, but it should never be in your system when you are on duty. You have to be fit for duty. Any questions? Because it does affect your cognitive ability to perform the job. Again, you have to balance work, family, and health. It's a difficult balance, but you have to make sure that you do it. Any questions? So burnout comes and is very high. The average life expectancy of a paramedic career is about 4 years. No?
Work expectancy, not life expectancy.
But life expectancy of the career.
Yeah, they don't die in 4 years.
They don't die in 4 years. The career dies in 4 years. They go on to something else. But that's because of burnout. Burnout is generally from extreme emotional and physical exhaustion, not being able to properly manage stress and balance their work and health. Any questions? It's the biggest problem in emergency services, not just EMS, but fire and law enforcement also. It'll end up very negative consequences if you're not able to do it. Any questions? There's very, very few dinosaurs in EMS. Make it 40, 50 years. Very few. So if you manage it properly, you don't burn out. But if you don't manage things properly, you'll absolutely. Any questions? Compassion fatigue. They just added this book. This is one of the things they did add. Compassion fatigue is a real thing. It's when you get less and less compassionate more times that you see things. You have to totally, completely watch out for that. That it does not affect you. Again, it's not about you, it's about your patient. You still have to have the same amount of compassion and empathy throughout. And yes, compassion fatigue is a very real thing. It's when you fail to empathize anymore with people complain, especially when they have pattern problems. When it's the 35th time you've been on them for the same thing that they have not chosen to correct. You still have to be better. Any questions? Again, regular self-care practices and professional, being professional. And if you need counseling, get counseling. Questions? So you're exposed to a lot of trauma at very high rates and a lot of angry people. Again, remember, it's not about you, it's about them. You're there to help them. You follow your protocols, you do your assessments, you manage your scenes, and you manage your stress and your workplace issues. And then you move forward to the next one. Any questions? And again, post-traumatic stress disorder. Symptoms are memories, flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety from situations that are similar to it, and uncontrollable thoughts about the event that you can't quit thinking about. If you use critical incident stress debriefing, which should be offered to you after any major incident, absolutely always take it. It helps prevent this. Any questions? A really good show on the Roku channel right now called Third Watch, 6 seasons about law enforcement, EMS, and fire. It's got some of the best post-traumatic stress disorder situations, and what's more about what life is about as an emergency responder and how people deal with it well and not deal with it so well. Both examples. It's a really, really good show on that. If you ever want to learn about it. Again, critical good stress management and critical incident stress debriefings are highly important. Peer support and supporting your team. Questions? So again, develop a develop support network, prioritize self-care, always have a positive attitude, build emotional regulation, make sure you understand what and why you're doing this, and when you need help, get help. Any questions? Social support and when things outside of the job are critically important. Make sure you have a good hobby or things that you enjoy doing when you're not at work. Any questions? Suicide's a very high rate in emergency services across all fire, police, EMS. And that is because they have not gotten the proper counseling or done the proper deviation or the proper management and work-life balance. Any questions? Any questions? I got nothing else to add. Getting close to breakdown. We're almost there. All right, so death and dying. There's 5 stages of grieving. You got denial, you don't believe it. You get anger, you get mad about it, then you try to bargain, and you get really sad, and then in the end you accept it. This is probably the greatest video example of it I can find for you guys. I highly suggest you watch this. This explains it better than I ever could. Any questions on the 5 stages of grieving? We don't have time to go over that. The critically ill patients, avoid saying sad during comments. Always be honest, but always allow for hope. Never say it's going to be okay because you don't know that it's going to be and it might not. Any questions? All right, what are the scene hazards you gotta watch out for on scenes? Dangerous scenes, hazardous materials, bare electric lines, tires, traffic collisions. Once there's already a traffic collision you're on scene of, there's often a second traffic collision. Rubberneckers, people that don't stop for the same reasons. Weather, violent situations, behavioral emergencies. Watch a little bit of this. We have time. For violent situations. Violence against EMS clinicians is rising at a rapid rate. We're seeing things that we never used to ever see. People are doing crazy stuff out there. So it's critically important you identify scenes of potential violence, understand how to de-escalate, make sure you have good communications, ongoing scene assessment and watching out for changing scene situations for safety, and being able to alert for potential threats and know when to back out. It's okay to back out and stage until the scene becomes safe. You can't completely leave, but you can back out and stage until it becomes safe. How do you do that? Training and practice. Depending on what agency you work for, you may have body armor, and working regularly with law enforcement. It depends on what state you're in on what you can and can't do. Any questions? Again, be supportive of your teammates. It's important that everyone feels valued and respected. Even if you don't necessarily agree with them or like them or have a different viewpoint, it's still important to be supportive. Any questions? All right, let's go to break. Be back at 8 o'clock to learn skills.